Hello, hi, welcome to Sovereign Spirituality. I'm so happy to be back. My name's Natalie, and I have Gabby Dominguez with us here
Hi.
from Living Light Lighter.
Living life lighter.
Living Life Lighter.
Yes.
Okay, she is an emotion code. I said emotion.
You did.
Code practitioner, and I had a session with her, and it really, really helped me. So, I am going to just ask you to just introduce yourself, all of the things that I just said, but do it in your way, okay?
Sounds good. So, like you said, my name is Gabby, and I do emotion code healing. So it's a spiritual modality. It's an energy healing modality, and basically, what it does is it helps people unlock that emotional baggage that we carry around our lives. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, emotional baggage. Yeah, I remember
Yes.
that one. And so it's a beautiful modality. I like it because it's not invasive. It's not like traditional therapy where you need to rehash anything painful, but it allows you to move through unprocessed energy or different emotional things that we've gone through in our life with ease and with grace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was very much that for me. I left the experience feeling lighter and just like, oh, okay, like it was beautiful. It was beautiful.
I love that for you.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah.
I wanted to have Gabby on the episode today to talk about how you
Yeah.
got started. Like, what was the start of your like spiritual awakening, your spiritual journey?
Good question. So for me, I didn't really have like much of a spiritual background prior to this. I was raised religiously, but I really knew nothing about energy healing. Like I heard about Reiki, I had no idea what that was, and really what started it for me was when. Well, we should go a little bit further back before that because to give more context of my life. But when I was younger, like most of us, I was in a household that was taught to repress emotions rather than deal with them or like feel them out, which is super common. Most people are raised that way. A lot of people teach you that way, society, school, whatever. Sensitivity is seen as a curse rather than a gift. And so I always thought that that was to my fault, that I just cried really easily for no reason, and that was just who I was, and there was something wrong with me. So I grew up pretty much my whole life thinking that, and give more context, but my life was a little turbulent, teenage years especially, but I ended up having my daughter at the age of 17. And that was a very unexpected thing, but it was also like the most pivotal point in my life for me.
Catalyst, yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge catalyst. And through that experience, it really helped teach me how to like care about not only myself better, but also my daughter. And having that pressure of like being a young mom, you're like, okay, I can't just like, like live my life and not care and not like care about my emotions or anything like that. So that kind of just drove me on this like path of like self-discovery, which I didn't really know where that was going to take me at the time, but it took me in many different facets, many different directions. I did like a lot of, and I was a single young mom too as well, but I had the help of my family, which was amazing. And just overall, I learned how to do sales and marketing. I knew how to like make financial end means for my daughter and I. But throughout that time, emotionally wise, I never really built up the whereabouts or the knowledge as to why I was still so sensitive. And kept falling into like dangerous or like bad situations in terms of like relationships and partners and all that fun stuff. Yeah. As I think someone who is like really giving and loving tend to fall into those types of relationships naturally, and then kind of learn the hard way those aren't suitable for us. But for me, I had gone through some of those relationships, and then was still kind of processing my relationships with my parents. And then fast forward to 2019, I'd say this is really the start of my spiritual awakening. But my father ends up passing away from lung, throat, and brain cancer.
Oh, wow.
And at the time, I really didn't know at that point like how to process the emotions that I was feeling from that experience. So I ended up like seeking out traditional help, which was like counseling and therapy.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was really beneficial in terms of like understanding, okay, like why is it that I feel that way, and how that is taught from my parents, and all these things I didn't know about before.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely grew my context in
Yeah.
terms of like all of my emotional reactivities.
Mm-hmm.
And then fast forward to 2020, as we all know what happens then.
Yes. Yes.
That for me was a lot more heavier, because not only was I still grieving, but I was also now having to really face myself in the mirror head first,
Mm-hmm.
and really having to reflect on, and looking at that emotional stuff a lot more deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And so I continued on my journey of therapy and counseling,
Mm-hmm.
and I started to notice with time that the more I unpackaged my emotions, the more it was like opening up Pandora's box and having like nowhere to put all that big emotion.
Yeah.
And it just felt like I was having to weigh like really heavy every single time I reopened those categories of pain.
Okay.
And so over that time, I ended up developing like harder symptoms. So I was starting to get like panic attacks.
Mm-hmm.
I was starting to become really depressed. I was starting to really have serious digestive issues.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had like a lot of PTSD nightmares, waking up with bile in my stomach, chronic back pain. Like my whole body, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, was
Yeah.
just breaking down, and it was only getting worse with time.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the very end of it, I started to really experience really bad depression.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, something has to change, because clearly I am feeling a lot of this pain and I don't know what to do differently than what I'm already doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so my best friend at the time had just found an emotion code practitioner online. Had no idea again anything about energy healing, but I was like, all right, what do I have to lose? Like, let me just try this out.
Mm-hmm.
So I came in pretty like open minded, but also like skeptical, because I have never experienced something like that. It was also over the phone, so I was like
Okay.
even more skeptical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna do what over the phone? Like, how are you gonna help me with
Yeah.
that?
Yes, I get that. I'm totally still, even though I can do it,
Yeah.
I'm still like, I prefer in person, but that's just me. Anyways, go on.
Yes. Yeah, I was just like, what? Let me just try it.
Yes, yeah,
What do I
yeah.
have to lose? And yeah. So the first very session I did, my practitioner, she asked me, okay, what physical pain are you having the most? And I said, my stomach by far.
Yeah.
And she's like, are you sure it's not your neck or your back? And I'm like, nope, my stomach. It's the biggest
Yeah.
problem I'm having right now. And she said, okay, so I'll work on that. And at the beginning of the session, my pain level was at a level 8. By the end of the session, it moved down to a level 6. So I saw an immediate difference. And I was like, okay, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then 2 days after that, because there are processing time to the
Yes.
emotion code, I went down to a level 4, and I was like, whoa. Okay, clearly she did something that obviously moved the energy and processed out energy. And I was like, okay, like, let me like look more into this. And so I ended up purchasing a 6-session package with her. Took like an even bigger leap of faith with the process. And after those 6 sessions, I was no longer having panic attacks. I was no longer depressed. I was no longer having chronic back pain. PTSD nightmares were gone. Bile in my stomach every morning was gone. Like, literally, it was like I could just breathe.
Yes.
And I was like, holy cow. Like, whatever you're doing, I got to figure out how to do. Because I know I'm not the only one out there struggling with this. And I would definitely love to learn how to like implement this more in my life, and then eventually in other people's lives. So that was pretty much the beginning. Yeah.
See, as a massage therapist, I always say your issues are in your tissues, and so like that is your story of that. My question then is, you were feeling it very physically.
Yeah.
So when you're like your pain scale and your level, like that's how the part of the emotion code itself is like looking in what level is like. So for me, I'm gonna like equate it to, or whatever word that I'm trying to say, massage therapy. We ask what your level of pain is, right?
Yeah.
Like for massage period. Like, this isn't coming out right, but it's fine. Like, and then like what do I like so at the beginning of a session we say what is the level, and then we release we trigger point, we release it,
Yes.
and then it's like, okay, what's the pain level at next, you know what I mean, like, and it goes down from
Yes.
like, which is so interesting because if you look at, for me, see, this is, I've talked about this with my friend before, like, is a trigger point is like the point is pain point, and that shows up physically, although it is an emotional, I mean, it's an
Yes, they
emotional
go
issue.
hand in hand.
Yes, yes.
The emotions are triggered by, or can trigger up the physical, and the physical can trigger up the emotional.
Right.
So it's like, who came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right,
Doesn't
right,
really matter.
right,
Yeah.
right, yes, exactly.
But either way, they both are like,
right, and then there are certain, like,
you.
there's certain bodies, there's certain areas of your body that holds certain emotions.
Right.
So, like, I know lungs is grief.
Like crying,
yes.
sadness.
Yes, and these, and like we looked up yesterday, kidney is fear. I like, and that goes into traditional Chinese medicine, and that's something outside of.
The
but
emotion
it's just
code
so,
follows that as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
like it's very, it's so everything's connected, and that is just kind of. That's another reason I'm like, I talked about this before I actually started recording, but I was like, I just kind of like, there's so many different healing modalities that are out there, and I just kind of want to spotlight what those are, because you never know what's going to work for you. Just like you were talking about with therapy, right? Like I always say, talk therapy, and with a therapist, like everything goes hand in hand with each other. They work in tandem with each other, because there's certain things, like I found myself talking to my cousin and been like, she works at a therapist's office, and I'm like, well, yeah, I should go back to therapy, but how do I talk about a spiritual disorder? You know what I'm saying? Like it's something spiritual for me. How do I like talk to, like, how do I say, well, this is what's going on in my head, but there's nothing valid about it,
like, well, maybe we should look at something else.
right. Right.
Yeah.
So, but they do, like it winds up, it's all connected. It's basically a long-winded way of saying
100%. Yes, I'm totally with you on that.
Thank you. So I'm trying to, like, I was thinking about my session with you, and it wasn't for physical pain. Like mine is always like, it's anxiety. It shows up. So it's not that I feel it physically in my body, but I'm always so in my head that, like, in our session, it's okay for me to talk about my session because I'm the one that decides to, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Yes. So, I just can't bring it up voluntarily.
Okay. In my session, at one point, we were working, and she, like, you were like, oh, wait, hold on. And, like, you had to pull me back. And I still remember that. Like, you're like, I need to, like, all right, grounding. And I could feel, like, it was so interesting because I, like,
bring you back to earth.
yes, because I was so out there, and that's fight or flight. If I'm, like, it's really like when I feel nervous that there's anything that's going to be changing, that's almost like, as I'm thinking about it, like my ego, like that is just so scared of change or even this healing that it was like, oh, whoa, this doesn't feel safe, and going into fight or flight, and you had to pull me back into my body. And I've described that and been like, it's like Peter Pan having to like sew on his shadow to his body, and I'm like, that's so interesting, even that it's a shadow, if you think about it, because ego, shadow, like when you tie those things together. And that is something I really, really often refer back to, like when I'm like, okay, like, no, you're up there, here, come on, and I
bring it back.
Yes, and I've actually saved when you had a TikTok that you're like, okay, it was, I woke up, and when I was doing my morning doom scrolling, you were the first person that showed up, and it was like, all right, we're gonna get very grounded, like, where this is a good morning meditation. I was like, yep, and I hit save, and I was grounded all day just from watching it, like, so, and that's something that I will often go back to too, to be like, okay, like you have a very grounding presence, and that is, wait, you're a Virgo?
I am.
Okay.
I'm all about earth,
Yes, okay.
Yeah, it's if I'm not grounded, I'm like, something's off,
Yeah. I see, I'm an Aquarius moon, so like,
you're
that's
all up
always,
here?
yes, but I'm a Capricorn, like, sun, so I should be grounded, but
maybe you just have to develop the skills.
Yes, so it's interesting, but
I'll practice. Life is practice, constant practice. Yeah.
Yes, it's always whichever one I'm tuned into, and it's and whatever.
Yeah.
Yes. So, that was, I found, like, and even that, like, it was days and the things that you said, and they still stick to me, and, like, I find myself, and that was months ago, I want to say, like, I don't exactly remember, probably March.
Maybe like a month and a half ago? Was it that far away? It could be. I don't know. Time's kind of like blur right now.
The same, I know. Like, but I do think it might have been,
like it wasn't
maybe March or May. May, it would be a couple.
No, it had to be after that, because I just signed that contract to be in that physical space in April.
Oh, okay. So then it had to have been May. And we're in July, so
Yeah.
that would be about 2 months.
May make sense.
Yeah.
May make sense.
Let's see. Time.
Yeah, like it seems like yesterday. I mean, the whole summer has just been going really fast.
Yes, yes. Um, but anyways, like I will often like I go back to it and I think about where I was then to where I am now. And I think like the other day when you texted me and I was like, I was thinking about you too. Cause I was like, my higher self was like, Natalie, you need to book another session. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's just funny that we wound up coming back. And doing this at least, you know?
And podcast has been my realm of like interest again lately.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the timing was like very synchronistic.
That's as it is.
And as I was driving home, like, there's no coincidences.
Yes, yes. I don't. So, I'm brain
kind
farting.
of to add on to what you were saying though earlier. You were talking about how like it's almost like an automatic response for you to like kind of like check out when there's like danger, quote unquote,
yes,
right?
Yes.
It's kind of like I think that's a good point to bring up because a lot of times what happens is we may not be consciously thinking of danger, but subconsciously your subconscious mind, which just kind of like refresh. If anyone doesn't know this, but we have our conscious mind, so that's what we're currently thinking of, our day plan, like had this conversation right now. That's all lives in the conscious realm, but the subconscious is like the bottom of the iceberg, where it's like everything we've ever gone through in our entire life, and how we digest without thinking about it, or breathing without thinking about it, or whatever, right? And so the mind is equipped to kind of pick up on danger. So we may not be consciously thinking of the things from the past, but it's like our body keeps count, and it has this archive of all of the experiences that we've gone through, and we'll have different triggers, and we're like, where is this coming from? Why am I feeling anxious? Why am I checking out of my body, right? But it's your mind's way of saying like, hey, there's danger, and I'm like trying to get your attention that there's danger, and maybe that's something that we're ready to let go of. Yeah. So that's kind of where the subconscious checkout comes from. Yeah. So, the fight or flight.
Yes, I think like I will find myself in the like or I'll have always like so many programs running where I'll be like I'll say out loud, Control Alt Delete that shit. Like because we're never completely aware of our subconscious, but like and then this is actually as you're saying that I'm thinking about how like you were going with the numbers that were coming up, like there was like okay, like because it's we were doing heart wall stuff for me, and that was like so it was like I think it was like 505, and like I can hear the number as you were hearing it, you know, like and that to me was like that's like
which is always fun when there's like intuitive person I'm working with,
yes,
we're picking up on the same energy, and
where I could hear my guides like or you know like that's what I consider it as my guides or my higher self like informing you of what the issue is or what the numbers are and what all of those things is, and I'm laughing because I'm like I hear that too. Like yep, okay, and then to me that is even practice though on me working with that and not with mind versus, you know what I mean? Like ego versus higher self or mind versus heart and
trying to differentiate which one's speaking and which one's coming forward or whatnot.
Yes. And I think that is something that you also do, like that is so important. It just gives you that clarity, that space to relay information. Like that's one of the things that I say that I do is I relay your information to yourself in the way, you know, like when everything's so cluttered and there's fog and you're not sure what you're listening to, because there's been so many times on my journey where I've been like, I just thought I was like, I had an active imagination, you know, like, and I just was like, whatever. And then it was like, no, like those moments where you hear something, I mean, my brain is always going, right? So I'm always hearing everything, but I'm clairaudient. So that plays with that.
That's your intuition. That's your strong suit in terms of your gifts.
Yes, like that's the one that I'm the strongest with. So there's always chatter going on, and it's like I don't, you know, like you know, and then it's deciphering which one to listen to and which one, you know what I mean, and clearing that channel and all of those things, and like that is so like that even in itself was a refresher for me to be like, oh yeah, no. That's the voice, and the way that you hear it that way, that's the one you listen to. That's the clarity. You know what I'm saying? Because there's like, I don't like...
trying to figure out where it's coming from, or if you're making it up, or if you're like, no, that's coming from your spirit family, or whatnot. Yes.
Is there any ways that you, like, that you've learned and how you distinguish between those?
That's a great question. So... when are we talking about like personally or when I'm working with clients? Because I would
Both.
say they're different.
Both.
Okay. I guess I'll go through each one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with clients, I find it to be way easier. Whereas, like myself, sometimes there is like having to
Yes,
decode
I
which
agree
one it is.
100%
Yeah.
with me. Yes. All right, but go on.
And it works even better if I have no idea about the person at all or
Okay.
like their history.
Yes, yes.
Then it's like even more like, oh, okay, like of course I've never met you before, but clearly I know that like you have difficulties looking in the mirror because I saw an image of that, you know, in my
Yes,
head, and
yes.
I can't make that up, you know.
Right.
And sometimes it's scary, like accurate.
I
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I don't know, this is what I'm seeing, and I'm like, does
Uh-huh.
that mean anything to you? So it's interesting how that works. But I would say like I do use some tools. I do have some tools in my tool belt when it comes to working with clients. And a lot of that is like setting clear intentions before I work with a client.
Yes.
And I believe in like universal intelligence. So there is that that blind energy that we can't see, right? That's all around us all the time, that if we're open enough to it, we can receive information. So I always connect to universal intelligence, and at least that's what I call it in my mind.
Yeah.
Before I do a session with someone. So it's not me trying to read the energy necessarily, which I technically am, but it's not like me trying to like do it on my own. I'm asking for that assistance before I go and work with that client. So that's for client wise. For myself, it's a different process. I would say the thing that helps me kind of differentiate is if it's, first of all, if it's a negative statement or negative belief or something negative, instantly I know it's the ego mind. Because I do believe that if it is like something that maybe needs to be honest, but it's not necessarily negative, it would still come in a gentle form, if that makes sense.
Yes, that does.
Yeah, so I believe that the ego mind will give us kind of that, and I'm using the word negative, but it doesn't necessarily need to be bad. I think we sometimes associate that as bad, but it's just like I think things that need to be worked on sometimes, or things that need to be reworded or whatnot. But when it comes to like the negative self-talk or the doubt or the shame or stuff like that, I more see that as my ego mind. And then rather than coming from a place of judgment, I've learned, I would say this year, to come from a place of curiosity and being like, why do I think that? Why am I saying that to myself? Why am I doubtful in this situation? Because I think it is an automatic response where we come in and we say, oh God, here comes that negative thought again. Oh, here comes that judgment about myself again. And we judge ourselves for having those thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's an automatic response, right? So I think that helps me kind of like decode it a little better. But then when it comes to like positive thought, or it's just like, you know, just messages in general, and I'm like, did I make that up or did that come from my spirit family? I will take a couple of breaths.
Yeah.
That usually centers me, and then like asking my spirit family, like, hey, can I get more clarity on this? Like, is this coming from me? Or is this coming from you? You know, and so I kind of differentiate that way. So asking for help and taking a few breaths helps me reset where I can get the most accurate information. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It's very helpful, and I think of like because I think of like as like on my own journey and what the way it works for me. When you say like, you said ego mind, like I look at it as different versions of myself, like past, present, future. You know what I mean? Like there's different versions of myself, and so looking back at which one of you, how old are you? How old? That's what it is. How old is the person, the version of you that is saying that? You know?
Yeah.
Because usually like that's a pattern or that's something that was placed like to me, and that's like in my belief system is like that was that belief, if it's a negative self-talk or something, or it's something that was placed at a certain time in your life and that became your reality, right? Or your truth, and it's like undoing all of those things, all of the patterns, all of the you know, like, and even then, and I want to circle back to when you had said about not being able to show your emotions when you were a kid, right? Like these are things, so it's like anytime for me, I'm a very emotional person, and not being able to share my emotions or being told I was too much, or you know, so and it's like when you have this pain point or you have this like this start to a pattern,
Yeah.
right? Like it started at some point and it's going back to that point, like where it was, and then like, okay, well, so you're only working from that, like from that age,
Right.
if that makes sense, you know, like, and that's how, like, so I look at, okay, what, and that's one of the things that I ask people is actually, mostly, any, that doesn't matter. Anyways, like, how old do you think you are? How old would you think you are if you didn't know how old you actually are? You know, like, and that is gives me a good indication, like, when even like in life, like it's just a good question, you know,
yeah,
like,
I like that question.
but even with clients, I'll ask because like that gives me a good point of where you are meant, you know what I mean, like where you're stuck in, because then we go emotion code, right? Like
Yeah.
when you get stuck in an emotion,
Yeah.
how old are you, because that was the start of that emotion, or that was the last time you felt it. And if that's something that you haven't moved through entirely, then that's where you keep going back to every time that specific emotion comes up again, you know, so you revert to that age. So it's like that goes then into the inner child healing, and you know, like those kind of things, like my inner child's healed, but that like inner teenager time, you know, like those kind of things. So it's like, what pain did you take on that you haven't fully processed at what age? And that's where, because that's where you are reacting from. And when I reacting, it's a very specific word.
Yeah.
Because it's not responding, right?
Right.
Because when you're reactive, it's just like, okay, well, you're like, you know, like it's whether it's defense mechanisms that are coming up,
right,
then versus like the deep breaths and the like practicing the pause and coming back to like, okay, well, that was then, this is now.
Right.
And I mean, there's so much practice that you have to do in order to be able to get to that point.
The self-awareness.
Yes,
yeah.
like to, and
some
not
people
just
are blocked off though, and they have no idea.
Yes, yes.
I had age blocks when I was starting this.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what happened between age 9 and age 13. Like complete block of memory there too.
Did you get them back?
Bits and pieces, yeah, where I don't really remember the bad stuff. I remember more of the good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was kind of interesting to kind of, and then, yeah, some things came back to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was nice, wasn't it? So I kind of like reworked through some of that kind of stuff. So,
yes, and
so in a sense, yes,
okay.
yeah. But the negative stuff, no, I don't really remember.
Yeah.
Nor do I care, to be honest.
So, you know, like I could not tell you about my childhood.
yeah.
I could not. Like I have like, I mean, I don't think it wasn't bad by any means, but
right.
like I'm like I just, you know, like there's only so much you can hold in here, and that childhood is gone. Like for the most part, it was good. You know, like I can't really say anything, but that's, I don't want to say like everybody, even whether like it's subjective. You know, also like I don't want to say like, I mean, I went through my things that I'm having to heal from now. That doesn't mean that like I wasn't blessed. Like I was always blessed, but what I held on to from my childhood was very real at that age when my brain wasn't fully functioning. You know what I mean? Like fully developed and those kind of things. So like someone's worst day ever could be somebody's best day ever, and it's so that's like even approaching it with non-judgment. Because I remember for a long time I would say, I mean, my life is like my life is easy. So is there? And like I had a friend tell me, you went through a lot actually. What do you mean your life was easy? Like all of that shit. I was like, huh. But that in itself was always a like, suck it up, buttercup. You know what I mean? Suck it up. Well, I'll give you something to cry about.
It was your normal, like, so you didn't know anything besides your normal.
Yes, right. And like that's just like this is what life did, like happened. Like this was life. Yeah. And that was like, okay, you know, like people had it worse. People had it better. I mean, you know, like, but it took somebody saying that to me to be like, oh, you're right. That was a lot. You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially for a 12-year-old. Yeah. You know, like, and working through it, and now still, like, I know overall, like, I'm incredibly blessed, and there's nothing I would, you know, like, and then it comes to that when that goes to healing your relationship with your parents, right? Like, they only did the best that they could only come from where they were, and they were doing the best, and
their
all
parents
of that,
did the best that they could.
Right. And if it's getting better at every generation, and like, for me, it was like, well, this generation, for me, I'm doing differently for my kids. Like, that was 100%, like, we are going to heal and we are going to grow, and that's not going to be just from like first start, like never touching, like never laying a hand on our kids. Like that is what me and my ex had decided, like we were never going to do, because we both came from families that that wasn't the philosophy.
Correct. Yes.
So like that, and just in doing that, and like I talk to my kids about it, and I'm so like, even one of the things, like this is so like not necessarily on topic, but I just think about the legacy we leave behind for our
Mm-hmm.
kids. And like, do you think if you didn't decide to heal because of your daughter that you would be the person that you are today?
It would just take me a lot longer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, some of our children just like wait. You have no choice but to like.
Yeah.
I say children either make or break you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like it took me like my kids it took me a while. I mean, we always knew when that like we started with when
Oh
we had
yeah.
our kids, but like when faced with actual like what do you want to do here, you know? Like it was
Do you want
very
to
much
continue on this old script that your parents gave you, or do you want to rewrite it?
yes,
And if you rewrite it, what does it look like sometimes?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, and like and I will and I also like I often like check in with my kids, you know, like when I got married, I didn't think I would be divorced and we had kids thinking that we, you know, like and
Yeah.
as like things are happening, like I will check in with them and be like, "Hey, like do you remember when our lives were this? And like, could you
Mm-hmm.
imagine if things happened differently? Like, what would life look like if I was still with your dad? Or, you know, like these things. And like, and we often talk about like, we would just not, none of us would be who we are today. And, but
Yeah.
we would be less authentic versions of ourselves if I didn't make the decision to leave my husband, you know, like those
Yeah.
things like I am who I am because of that decision and my kids are who they are because of that decision. But in so many ways, like it just shaped us into like it was meant to happen, right? You know?
Yes,
Like
a
and it's
hundred
just those
percent.
things and it was just choosing to evolve or repeat, right? So you
Yeah.
evolve. Like you don't repeat the patterns of, you know, and then what that would be like what that would look like if we stayed in that situation versus the, you know who they are now. And I just that's one thing like and I always talk like I life since my first spiritual awakening like
Yeah.
has been not the easiest but so worth it. And that's one thing like I have to say because like the legacy that I'm leaving behind with my like self-aware children and like
Yeah.
that bleeds into the next generation and just into the world, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
when people are waking up and realizing and like oh and you breaking the patterns and that like I don't know like that it's just so off topic but it's
No,
just
I
like
feel
the
like that's on topic
like
because I think we could really look at our lives and we could say like, oh, what was me? Or like, I could very easily be like, I had a rough childhood or I had, difficulty processing emotions and then
mm-hmm.
that's my story and then it attracts all these negative things in my life over and over again and those are kind of the old stories that we hold on to for quite some time
Yes.
until we're ready to let go of them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've learned is that, like, literally all of those stories were just there as a placeholder for me to rediscover who I am because really we're all born into this world. We're loving, we're compassionate, we're caring, we smile at ourselves in the mirror, we wake up excited to see what the day brings us, and then we go through this crazy journey of life and we slowly kind of get taken on this journey where other people um you know put on their emotional stuff onto us because that's their journey and we kind of like slowly start to and society does it and school does it and blah 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 blah
Uh-huh.
and all of those are just stories that have been taught to us as we've grown up into
Mm-hmm.
this world. So then we kind of go through this phase of like forgetting who we are,
Mm-hmm.
which is loving, which is infinite, which is
Yes, yes,
creative, which is just total like perfectness in the imperfect,
yes.
and then we kind of lose ourselves in the process and then but the most beautiful part is when you wake up one day and you're like, you know what, I need to change something.
Mm-hmm.
I want to rediscover who I am. And so then you go on this other journey of like then beginning to like undo everything that you've been taught
Yes, yes.
and then really discovering who you are, which is not the lies that you were told as a child, not that your sensitivity is a curse, not that blah 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 blah, all these stories that have been fed to you. You just start to dismantle and you kind of rediscover yourself on a way different level
Mm-hmm.
that you would have not had the ability to do had everything been all sunshine and rainbows from the
Right,
beginning.
right.
You know?
Yes, yes. It's the journey, yes.
Yeah.
And some, it can be, it's the ups and downs and it's the ebbs and flows, and for sure, but it is the journey. And I love that you keep talking about like that. Earlier, you had said self discovery, and that is becoming because it is just discovering who you are or were before all of the shit got to you or happened. And and an example of that, I want to say, like, I remember talking to my son, like, very recently. This is like because we do check-ins, but I had a couple years ago, I was in not great mental state. Like I was depressed and I was going through some stuff, and like there very specifically, like there was this moment, and like he was like I was mean to him.
Mm-hmm.
And all right, we're back. That was a system glitch,
Yeah.
storage glitch. Okay, and
Technology.
Yes. Thank you, because I don't know technology, so you
We got
helped
it fixed. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Um, I was in the middle of talking about my son, and in a moment where I was not like I was mean to him because I was going through something, and like I remember like him almost crying, and and I was like, I'm sorry, like, and I immediately was like, I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
and like and hugged him. I was like, it's not your fault, but that was years ago, and recently we revisited it, and I had talked about it, like, and I remember, and I was like, and at times, like, I took this out on you and you did nothing wrong. And when I talk about moments that we believe, you know what I mean, like as a younger kids, like we believe that, or like at a different, like we take on when it's not ours to take on, right?
Right.
Like emotions or these things that then become our story, like.
Right.
And I go like, and I had told him about that, like I explained the timing, and like, and I was like, and I was mean to you, and he's like, oh, I don't remember that. I'm like, well, I'm happy you don't, but I like you did nothing wrong, and like it was me. And he goes, no, well, he's like, I was a like I he was like, I was a pretty shitty kid, so like I'm sure it was. And I was like, no,
You could
no,
see him take it. He took it on.
yes,
And he still
and-
thought
but
it was true.
yes, and he doesn't, like, he didn't remember, but like he was the best kid, like he did nothing, like he's, and I was like, I don't know where you got that, because we never, like, he was just always like one of the, like, just an easy kid. But I'm like, that, like, no. And I'm like, that's when I'm explaining like things that I do, or like the rewriting or the changing the, like, the narrative, like,
Yeah.
that's it specifically, like, why would you think that that was something that you would have deserved, because you were, like, it was me, like I was in the bad place, and I took it out on you, and then you took it on as your own story.
Right.
And you didn't, like, that was like, some people, like, that is shows the importance of being able to navigate your own emotions and having emotional, like,
Awareness.
yes, to, like, so you don't put it on your kids,
Yeah.
and it's so hard, and like with single
And
moms,
we're not gonna be perfect.
right,
and...
right. But it's like, for me, like, and I say, like, and I'm not, like,
Yeah.
it's the ability to go back and say that wasn't your fault. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, for me, like,
change the narrative.
Yes, and so you did nothing wrong. You were perfect as you are. Like, that wasn't you. That was me having a bad day. And how do you, like, and like, that is just, to me, like a shining example of how a kid can take something on, but also, like, like how you can put something on somebody else, but also how you can try to undo that. You know what I mean? Like, when he's like, well, I don't remember, but I forgive you, like,
yeah.
like, but so, like, those things, and like that, when like, you just never know what kind of effect the things that you say or the things that you do have on somebody. And like, I always try to be kind for those reasons, like, and that's like, that is just one way, and like another layer of something that I'm necessarily learning about myself right now, because like, self-discovery doesn't stop.
No,
like, as my, like, I wanted it to. I really
There's
did.
layers to that. Yeah.
Yes, I really was like, I've discovered myself enough, and then it's like, oh no, here we go again. Okay, like, oh, like, I recently learned that, again, that I'm not always nice when I'm mad, like, I can be mean if I'm hurt,
And I think I learned this from you, but it's like when you evolve and then you come back to this stuff and you're like, oh, I thought I already worked on this, but,
yes.
but you're already more evolved state, so you kind of work on it from a higher level. Did I learn that from you the first time I met you?
I hope.
Sounds like you.
That sounds like that. I would be very proud if that was me. So I hope
wherever it came from, it was great.
Yes. Oh, you're talking about when we were at Interhaven?
Yeah.
In the
circle?
circle?
First time I met you.
Yeah, okay, I do. Yes, because I remember very specifically.
I just remember like a parking garage, you're going up. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yay. I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's just like you come, and it is different. Like, it's tweaking. Like, you learned it enough, or you could have, as that version of you.
Correct.
But as you are the next version of you, you get to see it from a different, like,
Correct.
and to me, like, even like, so that is exactly like two examples of that one. Okay, like I was mean when I was in a bad place,
Right.
and like I learned that then, and we had this conversation, but then looking at it from a different perspective because something happened recently where I was like, yeah, no, I mean when I'm hurt, not when
Right.
I'm angry, not when I'm having a hard time. Like, and it's even pinpointing what the, oh, and that's another one I want to go back, like, to, like, the emotion itself is hurt, not angry, not, you know what I mean? And I was like, it's, there's so many emotions.
60 in the emotion code.
60.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I was talking like to my friend the other day, and we were talking about like she was saying that everyone thinks that she's mad, and she's like, no, it's not mad. And I'm like, well, if you only have 5 emotions that you work off of, you don't know that there's like 6,000,
A
but
million
60.
percent. Or
Like,
60 or 6,000. But it's so true. I see it so many times when I work with clients. I'll be like, hopelessness. And they're like, I don't feel hopelessness. And it's
yeah,
like, but they associate that word as worry. So usually I'll read the definition to them and they're like,
uh-huh.
oh, that's what I feel when I'm feeling anxious. And then
Yes,
I'm like, okay, well, that's what I'm talking about. So you're right, we don't have like enough verbiage when because we're not taught about emotions very well as a child.
yes,
We don't really know what words to name what, and so
yes,
we'll hear someone like, oh, they're depressed, or oh, they're anxious, and you're like, oh, I'm not any of those things, but you don't realize that you're just having a different reality or different version of that word or different totally, you know what I mean? So it changes for everyone.
yes.
And I think it's interesting that comes up often. But they say like in the emotion code that there is 60, but if but we may use other words for maybe the same thing, but anything on that list of 60 emotions, there if you choose a different word, there would be a word already on that chart that is the exact frequency as that. But then I also find, well, I know there's another layer here, but then there's those just the 60 are like the base colors, so like they're like the primary colors, and then you have,
Because everything's connected.
yeah, this is where the 6,000 comes
Okay.
in. But then there's also sometimes, and we probably didn't find this for you, but there's what's called compound emotions. And what that means is it's a combination of emotions. So it's like mixing red and blue together to make purple. So it could be resentment and indecisiveness mixed together. So I'm using those two words and writing it down for the client, but really it's one emotion, just those two emotions mixed together to make its own unique frequency.
Yeah.
So then if you consider that much, then you can do the math on how many combinations you can make out of 60 emotions.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
And I think about that because I think like for me early on when I would say things like when I was doing my own healing and the way I would move through things is I have to name it. I have to name what the emotion is before I can move through it. Like I have to put a name to it. Like what am I feeling? Like, and it's trepidation, or you know what I'm saying? Like those like that is how I have to move. Like once I name it, I'm like, okay, I can move through it. It was almost like creating my own emotion code. That's interesting. Oh, that's interesting.
And
Like
what it's doing is you're matching the frequency because you're saying, hey, I have a hurt point. I need to match that frequency. And what you're doing is you're sending that healing energy to it. So it's taking a negative and a positive, and what you're doing is you're neutralizing it.
Okay.
But you need the right frequency. You
Yes.
need to know where to send that information to.
Interesting.
In order for it to clear out.
That's wild because like this is like like as uneducated, but just kind of like going in and listening, because that's one thing. Like if like there's any advice that I can like give with like besides like I mean like getting our certifications and all of these things and learn like
right.
But my start was just going inward and listening.
Right.
And before I becoming like trained in anything, it was just listening to myself and being like, what is this? And just but that comes like it comes from a place of wanting to heal, right? Like all of these things were things that I knew, before I knew, and it was just like my higher self being like, here, like this, like, and it was just I was just doing what I was doing without knowing what I was doing and why.
Yes.
Just to like, and that is like.
And people do motion code healing in different practices, different modalities. It's just a different verbiage. It's just emotion code really is just a systematic approach of approaching these emotions.
Yes.
Whereas people probably like I'll work with other healers and they've done their own work on themselves even without a modality.
Yes.
And you can work on any of these things without a certification, and then all that's in the ether, right? So it's like all the same information.
Right. It's all available to you. It's just whatever, like what interests you, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
what feels right for you. Like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 I love
We're
that.
vibing. That's
Yes.
funny.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. And it is like, those are the things, like, and it's, that is how I look at tools, right? When you say the tools that you
Right.
have, you know, like, and so you say you call universal, what did you call it?
Intelligence.
Universal intelligence. For me, that's source, right?
Right.
Like, and so it's
And we're
all
using
there.
different words, but we're talking about the same exact
Right,
thing.
right, and
Yeah.
that it goes for everything. I feel like
Yeah.
in, like, it is universal, right? It's
Yeah.
all, this is how it matches for me. And like, then one of the things that I say about like other healers and other practitioners
Mm-hmm.
and things is like, ooh, whoever resonates with me might not resonate with you. And like,
Right.
there's everyone, the world needs healing, and there's enough to go around.
A
Like I
hundred
always say,
percent. Yeah.
my clients are going to find me because they're going to resonate with the things that I'm saying. And that goes for everybody. Like,
A
if
hundred
you're, if
percent.
I'm not for you and I'm not for everybody, they may be for you. And you know, like,
Yes. There's
and
no competition.
yes, really.
Yeah.
And like, we all, like, we learn so much from each other, just like, honestly, by being in, in each other's presence, you know. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, I just know I need to be in that
Yeah.
energy, you know. Like,
Yeah.
it's so beautiful. I like, it's just, when you have access to it, it's just so incredible. Like, it's,
Right.
I like, you know,
Yeah.
like, this is what we came for.
Exactly.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
I did want to add something too because I think it's like a really important point. Going back to like you mentioned when you're working with clients, right? You're like trying to pinpoint where that what age that they're coming from.
Yes.
There is more layers to it because, and this goes back to emotion code, but there are different kinds of emotions that we experience. So what you're talking about are common, and this is the verbiage for emotion code, but it's
Uh-huh.
considered a common trapped emotion. So it comes from your lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's
Yes.
also prenatal, which happens when your mother was pregnant with you and she experienced something that you felt with her. So that's from a different timeline of your life.
Yes, I remember that now. It's all coming
Yeah.
back to me. Oh, yes, yes,
And then
yes.
there's also absorbed. So if
Mm-hmm.
you take on other people's pain because you're empathetic and you take literally you can absorb people's pain.
Yes.
There's shared, which means that you experience an emotion with another person.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a shared event. So it's the same exact event, same exact time, but it's with another person. So it's a unique frequency again.
Mm-hmm.
And then my two favorite are past life related. So past life emotions, or they call it preconception in the emotion code, which, you know, regardless if we believe in past lives or not, it's basically just saying that you came into this world already with emotional baggage.
Yes.
And then,
yeah. Sit with that
sound
one.
familiar? You're like, why am I like this? I have no idea why. So that one's really unique. And then the other one, which is definitely one of my favorites, is the inherited ones.
Yeah.
And those come from your family lineage. So just the same as our parents give us their hair color and their eye color, they also do this beautiful thing where they pass on their emotional baggage. So thank you, mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
And basically,
Mm-hmm.
what that does, though, is it doesn't necessarily have to come from your parents per se. It can go up generations ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of a niche I've been falling into the past couple of years, is finding people that are like, they put so much blame on themselves for feeling one particular emotion very overwhelmingly. What one person may consider like panic at a level, like when they do experience it at like a level 3, there are
Mm-hmm.
people out there that experience it on a level 18.
Yes.
You know, so and they don't know why. It's a lot to do with how long the lineage
Yes,
goes
I
up.
remember that. Yes.
Yeah, so some people have, and I can find this quite often. It's considered rare, but I think I just attract these people. It's that they'll experience, you know, hopelessness, resentment, taken for granted, you know, panic, unworthy, whatever the emotion is, but it's like crippling, overwhelming, intense emotion that you feel.
Mm-hmm.
But then what I'll find is that anything past 10 generations is considered rare, and they'll have like a level like 16 generations.
Mm.
So you can do the math on
Yeah.
how far that is. But essentially, what that like looks like for people is that they'll experience, it's not that they're experiencing that emotion on an individual level. What's happening is all those 16 generations are coming through their energy and experiencing it with them, whether they're dead or alive, doesn't matter. And it's, you know, panic times 16. So then it just amplifies the emotions so intensely. And a lot of times what these people tend to feel is a lot of self-blame
Mm-hmm.
for the reason why they feel a certain way, when honestly it has nothing to do with them. It has to do from their family lineage and
Right.
what
So
was
when you
passed
say I
down.
feel things so deeply and it may be certain emotions, that would be the answer why. Like you feel it so deeply. Yes, you're feeling it 16 generations deep.
Yes.
Yes,
And
that's
when I tend to work with other healers or different modalities, because yes, they know the frequencies, they'll know the emotion, they know that they got to work through it.
mm-hmm.
But if they miss that piece of information that it's inherited or it's past life or it's prenatal,
Yes.
then it won't clear out
Yeah.
because you didn't send the frequency to the right file source. If you want to like
Uh-huh.
look at
Yeah.
computer wise, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's how I love how that's the
Yeah.
easiest way for me to explain
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like you had the right idea, but you didn't send it to the right file. So then it doesn't clear out of the system.
mm-hmm.
So then the subconscious mind still holds it.
That's wild.
Yeah,
That's so intriguing, and I
isn't
like
it?
and as you're saying this, my session is coming back to me in more ways. Like for me, it was insecurity was one that like because I'm like
Mm,
I'm not insecure, but it was insecurity that was in utero, like and the, like something and
mm,
like those things, and I describe that to like as an example too because I talk to my son about a lot about all of this stuff
mm.
and he's like, why do you think I am the way that I am? And I say like, and for him being so different from his sister, you know,
Yeah,
like they're considering like both they're both Libras and they're both their signs are
yeah.
almost the exact
I
same.
have
They're
a Libra
literally like
daughter.
3 days apart. Yes, yes,
Okay.
I remember that.
Yeah,
But like they're so opposite considering they're supposed, you know what I mean? But like to
yeah,
me, I always say, well, that's just the Libra and the balancing, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
But like my son is just so like one way and my daughter's just very different. And he's like, why do you think I'm the way that I am? And I say, when me and your dad decided to have you, we had no expectations of you. There was no trying to do anything. There was no, you know, like it was just let you be you. We were very much like, I don't need to live like vicariously through you in any way. Both of us
Right,
were like that, right?
right.
But then with my daughter, like, and she, like, she's she's just very interesting. I was like, with when I got pregnant with her, it was the same year that my dad passed away. So I was holding
Mm,
on, like I was experiencing depression, and
mm,
so she's more emotional. She's more, you know, like
mm.
in certain ways where she's just like, and she's definitely me when
Right.
I was a 12. You know what I mean? She's 14, but she's definitely me when I was a 14-year-old, and like just me to a T. But I say like in those things, so like how he's just like this and she's just like this. I was like, well, my pregnancies with you guys were very different.
Right.
With her, I was going through depression. I was grieving
Right.
like the loss of my father and all of these things, and she was doing that along with me. So when
Right.
I like and I show him like that is when I say the issues are in your tissues or that it's passed down, like this is like I can show you a little way of
Mm-hmm.
like that is the way that I would explain it to you guys, you know? Like and this is
Yeah.
so like it's not her, you know what I mean? Like she's carried on and what we don't heal, we pass on, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why I was like it's so important to me, but like that was one thing like that was like I could like I'm like there was I didn't at the time I wasn't awake and like it
Yeah.
was just going through what I was going through but like I can see how that was passed out, and that's why it's when like do the work, do the that's if I can always say just do like this is why it's so important to do the work, and I hope that doesn't sound terrible. Like my daughter is just this beautiful, incredible being that just is more emotional because I was more emotional with her during my pregnancy. Does that like and not
And it doesn't
necessarily.
necessarily have to be because of you. You know that, right?
I mean, yes, yes, yes. I
It
do.
might be part of it, and it, of course, is a part of her. But
Yes.
I really believe that, like, we come into these incarnations, these lives,
Mm-hmm.
we get to choose what we're going to work on in this lifetime
Yes.
and who our parents are going to be and what, like, people ask me like, well, why do I have 16 minutes of, or 16 generations of panic?
Yeah.
It's like, well, in order for you to understand that emotion or that experience, like, I believe that we get to choose the intensity in which we experience our lifetimes too, and like what challenges we're going to learn, and hopefully overcome them and learn the lesson. Is the same as well as like these emotions, right?
Yes.
Like, there is something that she needed to learn that has nothing to do with you.
Yes, I know, and I'm
That's
like,
where
I've
the
worn.
parent self blame comes in.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I'm like, I'm feeling resistance to you even saying that, but I'm like, I know, I'm like, well, she just like she came here to experience these things specifically, and like I can see like
Yes.
in some ways where there's a wall that's there that's not with Oliver, like it's
Yeah.
so interesting. But like, yeah, no, and then there's like, well, no, like, yeah, but
But
you
that's
even
part
saying
of
it,
her
there's
life
resistance.
journey.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
that's
know, I know, I
I could
know.
say the same thing. Trust me.
Like,
I'm like, I didn't know anything about emotions, right? So I didn't teach my daughter any emotional regulation when she
yes.
was younger. And guess what? Now she doesn't want to deal with her emotions. And I have to
Oh.
just accept that for her story right
Mm-hmm.
now, and just accept that she doesn't want to do breathing techniques, and she doesn't,
Yes.
she doesn't want to do meditation, it's not for
Uh-huh.
her. And just
Uh-huh.
accept that that's how she needs to learn life,
Yes.
and that there was nothing I did wrong, and that was by design and
Mm-hmm.
part of her life journey and what she needs to learn in this lifetime as an individual, because we're all
Yes.
individuals.
Yes. Yes.
And just like kids are totally different from one another,
Yes.
and they can be like days apart in terms of their birthday,
Uh-huh.
is the same, like, same for us too. Like,
Yes.
we're all, it's like the roll of the dice, but we have, zero. We're, as parents, we're there to do the best that, like you said, to do the best that we can.
Yes.
But it's not our responsibility as
Yes.
to what they're having to go through in this lifetime.
Yes, I know. I've taught my son. I've tried to get him to meditate, not for it, right?
Yeah.
And then like with my daughter, I'd be like, okay, like if she was having like an emotion, like she was emotional and she was upset about something, I'd be like, no, let's talk about it. Like look at the bright side, and she would be like, I don't want to right now, and I'm like, oh, okay, okay, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Then it's like,
Yeah.
you're right. I'm trying to be who I needed as a kid.
Right.
I don't know what you need. And like I've had that conversation where like, so I need, like, if you could help me and tell me what it is that you need,
Right.
because I don't know. Like I'm just trying to do what I just know that my mom wasn't what I needed when I was your age.
Right.
And trying to do that, but that's trying to heal me.
Yeah.
And not, like, and she's like, I just want to be alone in my room. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like, but it is, like, it's remembering, because even in that, for me, it's like I'm trying to heal my inner child,
Right.
not necessarily hers.
And what works for you doesn't always work for your
Right.
children.
Right.
Breathing through it and meditating works for me, does not work for my daughter. She would be much more happier with a rage room and smash things
Oh yeah.
up, we look exactly the same, but we are totally different in the way we process emotions.
Funny.
Yeah,
that's funny. Now I'm thinking rage room with my daughter.
Maybe your daughter and our daughters
maybe
go to the rage room together. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think, but yeah, I think like it's those things. It's not like. But it's being aware. Like for me, it's knowing to be aware enough to not be like, well, this worked for me, and and like, I don't
just
know,
like there's a million other modalities out there, and
yes.
like this is the modality I was introduced to. It works for me. May not be the same thing that works for someone else.
Yes.
And so maybe something else is different for another person. But it's like you said, and like before, it's all about what's exciting.
Yes.
And I think that's the most important part about it all.
Yes.
As long as it's exciting, like, and another like layer I think is interesting is like the heart wall, which we like briefly talked about too.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's so many layers.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I remember thinking that earlier, like go back to like heart wall. But sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, you're good. But I'm just speaking what's coming to my mind, right? Really. But so when it comes to like emotional baggage, it's something we're all very familiar with. And that just comes through when you experience an emotion and you choose to repress it rather than letting it feel out and kind of ride through that emotion. Majority of the time, we're going to choose to repress because that's what we were taught. That's how our parents did it. That's how society's conditioned us to believe that we need to deal with emotions. Mm-hmm. And so we accumulate in the body. So that is kind of what we've been talking about mainly. But the heart wall is just a different layer. And this is, I think, what makes it unique to other modalities. Mm-hmm. Is because the heart wall talks about the emotional baggage that we specifically carry around our heart. Mm-hmm. And what that means, it's when we are going through more emotional burden or emotional challenges that are very overwhelming in that moment for us to process. That emotion can affect the heart energetically. Because our heart's responsible for pumping blood in our body. Our heart is responsible for keeping us alive. And so if there's too much of a particular emotion, whatever the emotion is, then it stresses the heart out. Mm-hmm. So by design, we have our own mechanism, our own defense system that everyone has, and it's called the heart wall. And what it's doing in those moments is it's taking whatever emotions going on in the air that's heavy, whether it's panic, resentment, hopelessness, anxiety, unworthy, whatever the emotion is, it'll scoop up that energy, that ball of energy, and shield it over the heart and create a barrier or a shield of armor for that short term response. So, in a nutshell, we want the heart wall because we do want to protect our heart energetically when there is big emotions like that in the air. However, long term wise, it doesn't naturally fall off. So, what ends up happening is the older we get, the more we accumulate these experiences over the heart. And so, it's kind of like going through life and you wear like those aviator glasses, you know, what I'm talking about with the slits in
Yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
You can see what's happening in front of you, but you have all of these layers of emotion that start to clog up your perspective in life. And it distorts our reality and our perspective and our own whereabouts of ourselves as well. And so, like, some of the most common symptoms of the heart wall, and these progress sometimes as we get older as well, or the layers accumulate, and they don't all have to apply. But fatigue is a big one. It's probably more of a physical one that people can sense. Difficulty receiving love or giving love is a big one.
Yeah.
Difficulty having people like maybe misinterpret your emotions. So you might have like this beautiful butterfly of intent,
Yes.
and then has to go through all those layers, and it becomes like kind of distorted by the end of those layers.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then the other person misinterprets it, or vice versa. So maybe you misinterpret other people's emotions. And then also like anxiousness, sadness are another part of that. Again, they may or may not be true for everyone. And then also, I like to say, like, the more layers we accumulate, it's almost like our intuition becomes, like, dwindled or, like, harder to read. Whereas, like, if we're in, like, our early 20s, we have, like, no hesitation, turn left, yep, turn right, you know, and we just kind of live, like that. Whereas, like, you go through all these life experiences, you create, like, this doubt and these insecurities about how you're supposed to move in life. It makes it, like, harder for us to, like, trust when to move when we see it, you know? And again, these may not all apply to everyone, but and then more physical symptoms, you'll feel like when you're stressed out sometimes, like there's a heaviness around your chest. Difficulty taking a full deep breath in is a big one, and then upper back pain.
Yes.
So those.
Yeah, and that's like heart wall. That's like I'm associated with the chakras, right? And that's like your center, like, you know. And so, like, yes, that would be
And so some people feel as if it's necessary to keep those heart walls because they're like, oh no, I want this defense system, thank you. However, quite the contrary belief, what's happening is when we keep these layers, what ends up happening is because they live at the forefront of who we are, which is our hearts, right? And there's like every emotion's a different color. So you got red, blue, purple, yellow, orange. What ends up happening is because it sits in front of us, then it continues to attract those same situations that we went through back into our field. So it acts like a magnet. So that's why you'll notice sometimes things repeat in your life. It's because there's a good chance it's probably sitting at the forefront of your heart.
That clip, that right there is exactly what was needed. That was exactly what this was supposed to be about.
Yeah.
That right there, very specifically, because I've been working with a client about that specifically, but I'm saying like, you don't need a wall when you have boundaries, and that's, you know what I'm saying. So it's almost like, you know, like it's taking down those and having your boundaries and knowing, and that's, you know, like in those kind of things that, I mean, that was how it needs to be worded. Yes. The way you worded it is very like, that's because like the aha moment.
It's true.
That is.
And I get it. I mean, there's a reason why we created the defense in the first place. It was to protect us from harm.
Right.
But if we want to keep living in that past, then you might as well accept the reality that it's just going to come back into your field over and over and over again until you choose one day, and there's no rush on it. One day when you realize, okay, I don't need to keep this defense system up. I can live my life more free. I can let my guard down.
Yes.
All of a sudden, the world completely changes. So I'll take my clients. It takes typically anywhere between 2 to 5 sessions to completely clear out a heart wall.
Yeah.
Once it's completely gone, though.
Yeah.
Oh, It's
Yeah.
like you will never want a hormone back again. You
Yeah.
know? Your sleep improves, your clarity improves, your sense of self improves, more abundance flies into your fields, you're able to navigate life with way more ease.
Yeah.
You really start to go back into this flow of who you are. Whereas before it may be like way more, it's like trying to paddle the boat, but the oar's missing the paddle at the bottom, and you're just using the stick. You know, you're going somewhere, but not very fast.
Yes, that's funny.
Yeah,
Yes.
life does not have to be hard, challenging, resistant, heavy. Like that is just a false reality that we've also been taught.
Yes.
It can be kind, gentle, easy, loving. Guess
Yes.
what? My challenges don't have to come hard either. They can be kind, gentle, easy, loving. And that's the way I want to live my life from now on.
Yes, I like that. I like that. I like that one. And that I think is we're on the word time. So and I think that was actually the very, very perfect way of ending.
Yay.
That was it all came together. Thank you.
Thank you. This is fun.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all of your information. I feel more enlightened. So thank you for sharing. Is there anything you want to say? I'll link your information.
Okay.
So it's your Gabby with Living Life Lighter.
Yes.
And I'll put your information and how to reach out to you and how to book anything with you because you are needed.
Thank you. So she's amazing too. Trust me.
Thank you. Awesome. Well, let me know if you guys have any questions and have a beautiful day.
Yes.